In the summer of 1892, America would witness one of the bloodiest confrontations ever to occur between labor and management. The Carnegie Steel Empire was at the height of its power when a disagreement over wages with the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers erupted into a fierce battle at the Homestead Works along the Monongahela River near Pittsburgh. The outcome of this confrontation would not only affect the fate of the individual workers in the mill, but labor unions throughout the entire country.
Frick wants us to cut our wages 15% because the price of steel has dropped. I told him we won't go below what we've had for the last 3 years under our present contract. We fought for those wages and we won't let him cut them now.
Boys, I said I would have nothing more to say to you. Nonetheless, I have come down here this one last time with a proposition. In our new contract, we offered you a wage scale of $22 based on tonnage. Now, if you will sign tonight, I'm prepared to go up to $23.
How long a contract, Mr. Frick?
A year and a half.
You're cutting a 3-year contract back to a year and a half? What kind of an offer is that?
I don't have to guarantee you even a $23 minimum for that matter, gentlemen. But I'm ready.
That's all you're ready to do?
No. I'm prepared to sign individual contracts with each of you on my terms.
Individual contracts, Mr. Frick. We have a union here, the Amalgamated Association, and it's stronger than individual workers. Your terms will have to meet with their approval.
I've made my offer. Just decide quickly. It's growing late.
Mr. Frick, if you please, we all work in this mill, as you do. It is not perhaps a garden, but we are used to it, and I even like it here. What we are asking you to realize, sir, is how we feel about this mill. It is part of us. We are part of it. Our wives, our families are proud that we work here. It's our place, too. And if you would only realize that...
For almost 5 months in 1892, the Homestead Lodges of the Amalgamated Association of Iron and Steel Workers and the Carnegie Steel Company Limited clashed over contract negotiations in what has become known as the Homestead Strike. The steel industry was crucial to Homestead, a borough situated on the left bank on the Monongahela River, just 7 miles east of Pittsburgh. In 1889, workers had won a strike and negotiated a 3-year contract for a sliding scale wage, which was determined by the fluctuating market prices of 4x4 standard Bessemer steel billets. The contract was to expire on June 30th, 1892. As his expiration date neared, steel baron Andrew Carnegie, who had often publicly communicated Union sympathies, departed for Scotland, leaving the notorious Henry Clay Frick with managing authority. Frick was known for his ruthless anti-union policy, and as negotiations were still taking place, he ordered the construction of a solid board fence topped with barbed wire on the mill property. The workers dubbed this newly fortified mill Fort Frick. Meetings continued through late June, but the two sides could not reach an agreement. Workers expressed their discontent by hanging Frick and Superintendent J.A. Potter in effigy on mill property and turning the hose on men sent by Potter to cut the effigies down. With this event as an excuse, the company began to shut down the works on June 28th, and by the morning of June 30th, the day the contract with the Amalgamated expired, the entire workforce was locked out. Union and non-union workers joined forces under the leadership of Hugh O'Donnell and kept guard around the steel works to prevent any black sheep or scabs from entering. Frick, meanwhile, had already made arrangements with Pinkerton's National Detective Agency of New York for the arrival of 30 strike-breaking detectives, commonly known as Pinkertons. When this army was spotted on the Monongahela in the early morning of July 6th, workers sounded alarms, and townspeople of all ages gathered to meet the approaching barges. Once it was clear that the detectives planned on docking and entering the mill property, workers tore through a company fence to stop them. While who fired the first shot remains a mystery, the detective opened fire on the crowd and wounded several workers. The workers hid behind ramparts of steel, pig iron, and scrap iron and returned fire while the women and children retreated out of range. The battle lasted from 4 a.m. on July 6th until 5 p.m., with workers finally agreeing to surrender to the Pinkertons. 3 Pinkertons and 7 workers died, and many were wounded in the fight. 6 days later, the National Guard of Pennsylvania arrived in Homestead under the orders of Governor Robert E. Pattinson. The company then used several tactics to weaken Union forces. They evicted workers from company homes, arrested individuals repeatedly just on charge of bail, and involved the workers in a series of costly court cases. On November 17th, the first break in the ranks occurred when day laborers and mechanics voted to return to work. 3 days later, the lodges of the Amalgamated voted to lift the prohibition on returning to work for the company. The company hired back some of them as non-union workers and blacklisted the others. Carnegie, Frick, and the company had won, helping to prevent the organization of the mills for the next 40 years.